we're at Titanium Radio, Hartford to talk. I got my guy Chase Beats, Engineer of the Year.
In the house.
Film Productions behind the camera, you know what time it is.
What's up? What's going on, Chase? I'm chilling. Titanium Radio at Titanium_radio. It's 89.9 QFM. B Davis, DJ QT, Shaquana.
Yes, goody.
Yeah, we here. We got Goonie Jay in the building with us, man.
Hartford, what's up?
Goonie Jay,
in the building.
What's going on, man? How you feeling, man?
Feeling great. It's a pleasure to meet you, B Davis.
Oh, man.
Definitely honored to be here tonight. 89.9. We're gonna have a good time tonight.
I've been watching kind of the past 2 years of your music career. And you always in motion, you always active, doing something. Like real talk, like even when there's nothing to do, you create something. You know what I'm saying? And I really I admire that in the artist, because that's what artists are creators.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So talk to us about the last 3 years of your musical journey.
So, I mean, the last 3 years is actually more like the last 1.5 years, realistically, because it's like one of those things where I took music super serious from the age of like 9 until like 16, 17. Mm-hmm. And then once I got out of school, I was in like a position where I'm like, you know what, I could either go get a job or I could pursue this, or, you know, do whatever I want to do. And I started kind of just taking the route of let's go to work every day, maybe do this as like a passive little hobby thing, but I didn't realize it was like lucrative until later in life type deal. So the real point where I started pushing forward and turning into like more of a professional was once my daughter was born. It was one of those things where it's like, if I keep doing this, I could either, you know, embarrass her or make her proud. And I told myself, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna either make her proud or I'm gonna stop doing it. You know what I mean? So everything I do, I try to look at it like, all right, I don't care if you're 5 years old or if you're 80 years old. I want it to be something you can relate with and something that you can engage with. You know what I mean? So that's kind of how I moved myself into the position that I'm in at this point.
Wow. Okay. With that in mind, with that perspective in mind, I see your whole like musical like thing differently now, right?
Vision.
Yeah, vision. There you go, vision. I see your whole musical vision differently now, because it is catered to, I would say, like anybody that loves hip hop, but also like it doesn't matter your age range. You know what I'm saying? It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to play at the cookout for everybody.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
We try to
and
keep
it's clean? Is
so not everything is clean. We try to do, you know what I mean? Like we have family friendly shows where it's like sometimes it's not, you know, we're not cussing and things, but it's more like, I would say I have a piece of content that's suitable for everybody, but not every piece of content is suitable for everybody. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Like I have like more romantic records. I have more deep personal records, like for like the mental health kind of things. And then obviously I got to turn up the club records and things like that. But I just always try to stay authentic and true to myself and my experiences. When I was like 7, the first music video I seen was on like CMT, which is country music television. And my parents hate country music. Like they're not into it at all. And I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then I try and sing and I couldn't hold a note. And then I saw Neo do So Sick, and I was like, oh, that's a little different flair. I kind of like that. And those two videos, like the country video and that video, were like the things that made me realize there's so many different lanes with music at such a young age. And then some of my friends progressively as I grew up kind of pushed me into that, because like with poetry was always a big interest of mine. And like I said, I couldn't hold a note. So it was like, you know what, I can construct something, but I can't necessarily do that. Let me try and do this thing, because it relates to kind of the subject matter that I'm living anyway, you know? So side by side, it just grew and evolved and, you know, went that route.
So hip-hop wasn't your first love. What was the reaction like in your friend group when you started rapping and you kind of like spit bars? Like,
so like, yo, it's a tricky situation with that too, even because it's like, I can't ever say people didn't show me love, like, and I don't say that in like an egotistical way. Like, I don't even think I deserved the love, frankly, at the point I was getting it, because it was too early. But the first time I realized, I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, real talk.
The first time though that I realized like people are like really engaging with this was when I was about 16. I had convinced my high school principal to let me throw a solo concert to raise money for like the prom, to help the seniors pay less. So I ended up getting pretty much everybody to come out from the school.
Solo concert.
Yeah, 16. Actually 16 and 17. We did it junior year and senior year. So once that happened, I was like, whoa, like everybody's responding pretty cool to this, but I don't know if it's just my friends or if it's just because these are people I know. And then actually once I met Alex a couple years later, like post-incarceration, once my daughter was born, like I said, we started exploring like New York. Rhode Island, Boston, all different places that I had never been before, and where when I'd walk in, I would look completely different than everybody else in the room, which was beautiful to me because it was like these people are so much more receptive to what I'm doing than even some of the people in my hometown. So once I realized that, I'm like, you know what, whoever's listening, it's because they want to be there. Let me connect with those people. I don't need to target where I'm from or anything like that. I want to be, you know, somebody that everybody can relate to. And
wow. So that's an interesting dynamic that you just broke down there. Is it harder to turn people into fans in your hometown?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. Why is that?
So I mean,
and like you said, people look like you.
Yeah.
And they probably know your story, know who you are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I mean, the reason I think it's more difficult at a local level is because it's like people think they're supporting and it's more subconscious, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I support him, but I don't necessarily, you know, post
come
this,
out and
buy
show,
this record, go to
yeah.
the shows and things like that. But what I found was like a good way to get into my demographic and like my area was I was like, all right, who do these people actually listen to on a regular basis? And I put myself in the position where I'm like, let me get around these people. So once I have the approval of them and my, you know, peer group sees that, they're going to look at it and say, well, if that person that I already respects him, maybe I should give this guy a chance. Yeah. You know, so that was another marketing approach and things like that I've used over the years with my music. So
that was dope, man. That was really dope. You got a brand, Goonie Genetics.
Yes, sir. Sir.
What is that? Talk to us.
So I'm a medical caregiver based out of Maine, so I travel back and forth from Connecticut. That's where I do like all the music stuff, and in Maine is where I'm licensed to do that. Basically what that is like medicinal patients can choose me to be their grower, and like they're pretty much their everything. Like I can do laboratory work for them, extracts particular patient to patient, but I don't do anything as far as recreational goes, like recreational sales or anything like that. So we'd love to come down to Connecticut, but unfortunately like the way the new law is written, the amount of capital that you would need to be able to do something like that is not a realm that
it's pretty much a monopoly on growers right now in Connecticut.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like how long have you been growing and cultivating cannabis?
So like initially like around 16 was when I started. I'm 26 right now.
Wow.
So I started.
What made you start at 16, man? Focus.
The money, honestly, was
I
the
know.
thing that, and like you know what I mean. Like I obviously have to be a little careful with how I word things and whatnot. But you know I've already paid the consequences for my actions, so I can speak pretty freely about you know.
So when you were doing it at 16,
yeah.
Let's just say you weren't licensed.
Correct.
Right.
So like the way that I really got so into that was it was one of those things where it's like I'm seeing people hustling all day, you know what I mean? I'm doing my thing, I'm getting my money, but I'm like, how does Sam's Club work versus Stop and Shop? And how can I be Sam's Club? And it was like, well, do I really want to be super supply, I have to serve everybody all this stuff, or do I want to just remove that and be the person who's constructing this thing? And once I realized like, okay, if I can remove all these middle people and basically do this thing the right way, you know, that's kind of what pushed me into.
And you were thinking about this at 16?
Yeah, at 16. Because, I mean, like, smoking weed was, like, once again, coinciding with music. So it was, like, something where it's, like, everywhere I go, people are doing this. So, like, if they're not paying attention for the music, maybe I could catch their attention with this thing, you know? And another thing, too, is, like, the transfer of, like, how weed has progressed over the years was, like, when I started smoking, it was, like, a lot different of a process, a lot different of, like, even a culture, like you didn't have to worry about, you know, getting dusted or getting, you know, fang your weed or something like that. So progressively, like as I started seeing kids like, you know, buy something and then maybe they're dusted with PCP or maybe they're this and that. And it's like people in my friend circle, I'm like, whoa, if I have the resource to do this and I could do it safely, like it was really more so like a help people out, help myself out kind of thing. It wasn't anything where I'm like, oh, I want to monopolize off this thing or something like that. But I saw a lane, did my research, and then at like 18, 19, that's when I went up to Maine for the first time. And then 3 years later down here, I got myself into a little rut.
3 years?
3 years later.
So you were moving and grooving for 3 years?
Yeah, I was moving and grooving pretty much all legal up there for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then what ended up happening down here was actually after I had stopped pretty much doing everything I wasn't supposed to be doing in Connecticut, one of my other friends that got tied up in a situation where he just started blabbering about past experiences and unfortunately, like task force did like a 45-day investigation, but they didn't find any evidence when they blitzed the house. Like they charged me with like cultivation in the school zone, drug factory in the school zone, pretty much anything you could think of. It was like I was selling meth.
Was that in Manchester?
Manchester, yeah. So which it's nice though because it goes full circle. I mean, like I'll be real with you. At the time, I was super frustrated because it was like rapists had like a lower bail than me. You know what I mean? And I'm sitting here like, this is 2018.
Yeah, it's 2018.
Colorado's legal right now. Maine's legal right now. All these Mass is legal right now. You know. So I'm like, what am I, going to jail for this thing for? But luckily, I was able to, take the bump on the chin in the sense of do some time and not have to take the F on the report card. So it was either you do some time and you're not a felon, or you don't take nothing since you don't have any prior history, and we're gonna make you a felon. So I'm like, you know what? I got a kid on the way right now. I got a whole life ahead of me. I might as well just sit it down for a little bit, take some accountability, because it's not like I was squeaky clean, you know what I mean? I earned the position I was in to be, in a trouble situation. Like,
I love the accountability, I just do.
Appreciate that. Yeah, it's like...
How long did you do?
Just 6 months.
Okay.
Yep, Hartford County the whole time. They never transferred me up the way, nothing like that.
Word. Yeah. What was that experience like?
Some ways, like, the best thing that's ever happened to me, because it was the biggest wake-up call, I would say, and it was the thing that made me realize, like, you're just walking down the wrong tracks right now, kid. Like, it's like, I'm meeting dudes that are 3 times my age that have been in there for 40 years, and I'm talking to, like I said, they...
In the county?
In the county, yeah, because that's where, when you get booked at first, like, you go to county, you don't, you know what I'm saying, you don't just go wherever you're going. So I had the prison job because I didn't have, any priors or anything like that, so they'd have me walking around, like, giving everybody their toilet paper and doing things like that, so it was, like, one of those things where I'm walking into this, like, I'm like terrified low key, but I'm also like, I got to keep my composure at the same time. So it taught me how to like keep a poker face, you know what I mean? No matter what the situation is. And it also taught me that like being true to yourself, as long as you don't try to be somebody you're not, or emulate something that you're not, people will respect you for that. And people aren't going to pick a bone with you, like I never stepped on any toes, never took anybody's food, never tried to punk anybody or anything like that.
Did
but
anybody try to do that to you?
Not. So one time, yes, but actually, I'll tell you this.
There's always somebody trying.
This is a crazy story. Matter of fact, I've never told this story.
If anybody knows B. Davis, man, I love jail stories.
So this one
I be doing the same thing.
This one got a wild twist to it. But so I had a couple super cool bunkies because I was in the dorms. I was never, you know what I mean, in the cell blocks or anything. It was always like a bunch of dudes, same area, 100 people, and 2 of them next to me were super cool, and they happen to be black. I'm like the white dude in the row, and then, you know what I mean, there's another white dude down the way. So the COs moved the other white dude next to me, but he's like a lot older. He's like probably 60 years old or something. Oh, Lord. And at first I'm like, oh, cool, you're sharing food with me, everything's all good. Until he rolled up his sleeve and he had a little Nazi thing going on. Now when I saw that, I backed up. I'm like, nah, I'm not with this. Yeah. He had a little problem with that, and like 4 or 5 other white dudes started approaching me with a big problem. So I didn't back down or anything, and to my surprise, everybody that wasn't white ended up backing me up on that because they saw, like, yo, this kid's not afraid to get beat up over his morals, you know what I mean? Like, but that's as close as it got, I would say. I never had
They're trying to recruit you.
Black Lives Matter.
I don't play that shit. I don't play the
I respect it. I respect it for real. You did some longest yard stuff.
So it just kind of like diffused the situation once they seen everybody else kind of had your back.
Like, you know what, there's like 6 of us, and then, there's like 30 other dudes that are backing this guy up. We should probably leave him alone.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
But I mean, I don't sit here and gas it though like I was a tough guy or something, man. I'm 5'8". At the time, I weighed 120 pounds.
They got the knee surgery. I just seen it on Facebook. This dude went from 5'5" to 6'2". Okay, so don't
I might have to give it a try, to be honest. But no, like I don't try to put on a persona that's not me. Like I've never been somebody to, we're not allowed to swear on here.
Nope.
Yeah, I've never been somebody, who gets B-worded or something like that. But I've also never been somebody who walks in a room and looks for an issue. I try to see like the benefit of whatever situation and realize, I can always learn off somebody else with a different situation. So luckily that's kept me out the way for the most part, and most of my debacles, good and bad. So
dope.
Humility gets you a long way. Trust.
What was the hardest part of doing time?
Not seeing like I'd say friends and family, but at the time that was when my girlfriend at the time was pregnant.
Oh man!
So they basically gave me the option. You could either do it right now while she's pregnant, or you could do it like a year down the road. And I was like, you know what? Like I could be a more useful father once this child's here. So let me just bang this out the way. That was the toughest part. That and my dog. Like
you gotta leave your dog.
That's like the crazy one, because it's like you think like the people would be what you miss, but it's like it's actually that connection, because even when everybody's against you and you're kind of backed into a corner, like you walk in the crib and it's like the animal's still excited to see you every time, no matter what it is. So I used to miss her pretty bad too. But,
yeah, white people love their dogs.
You're not wrong.
I know that for sure. White people love their dogs. Boy, I tell you, he ain't say the baby.
She
baby,
does
she
climb on
wasn't
the
born
furniture,
to my dog.
Titanium Radio. We got Goonie Jay in the building, man. Let's jump into some music. We got about 10 minutes left. I want to jump into some music. What joint you about to play, Q? What we got lined up? Pretty.
It's more like a radio vibe, little pop song I did about 1.5 years ago.
Alright, pop vibes. We with it.
Okay.
Say 9.9 Q FM Titanium Radio. Keep it locked. Goonie Jay, pretty. Titanium Radio at Titanium_radio, man. Goonie Jay in the building.
Yeah.
Alright, Goonie. Here's the test. You ready?
What's that?
Top 5 favorite white rappers.
I'm done.
Go.
I'm done. Mark Wahlberg.
Being with you, I don't think I can even name 5 that I listen to like on a regular basis. The only
You
one,
passed the test.
The only one I really rock with is my boy Millie's, because he's one of those people that like, every time I see him, bro, he shows love. He always
Facts. You did a show with Millie's, right? During a lot of summer. Millie's and what's the OT the Real?
OT the Real.
OT the Real might be the best white rapper
ever type.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Real talk.
Yeah.
Real talk. It might be a little early for that, but he might be the best white rapper of all
It depends what your genre is, you know what I'm saying? Though, too. Like there's a lot of them. It's just like I said, I try to I didn't say this on the radio, but I try to stay away from listening to artists that resemble me in that nature, just because there's so much fewer of them, like in the genre of music that I do, that I don't ever want to come off as sounding like somebody else. I try to keep my creative palette as clean as possible. You know? So,
Top 5 greatest favorite rappers. Period.
So favorite, if we're not talking about skill sets, like favorite, I would say Lil Wayne first, because that's the most influential to me ever. There was a point in time I could have rehearsed every single song to you that he ever did. I could have named his tattoos when I was a kid.
Oh, Lord, you was that type of thing.
I was a super
tattoos.
fan.
You got tattoos? You got a lot of tattoos?
Nah, I don't have any tattoos.
Me either.
I just listen to the music.
But, you know what I mean? Like, it's the commitment thing with the tattoos, bro. You know what I'm saying? But nah, I would say Weezy. Juelz was one of the big influential ones for me as well, because like I Can't Feel My Face was like really the mixtape that kind of like pushed me to want to challenge myself a little bit. Trying to think. Let's see. Because I want to make sure I give credit where it's due type deal too, you know?
This is your list. This is your list.
Yeah, this is your list.
That's what I'm saying.
Don't try and make beef over it. Everybody's scared when B asks
But I know people are going to see it and they're going to be like, hold on, he said this name, he said this name.
It's B. The B sitting here waiting for you to say 50, one of his favorites.
50. I can't believe I even forgot 50. Like, Get Rich or Die Trying as well was another major influence as far as like what motivated me to want to make music. But I mean, I'm pretty open as far as rappers go. I have a diverse palette with that, like everybody from Future to Hobson, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And everybody in between.
Nah, those 3 rappers you just named, especially Lil Wayne and Juelz, I already know the era of rap that you kind of fell in love with hip hop. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely.
That late 2000s.
Yep.
2009, 2008.
08 to 12 is like my golden era as
man.
far as if I could listen to stuff just over and over, that's like what I usually tend to gravitate towards. It's harder for me to get into like the computery sound of music, and like my biggest struggle as an artist is keeping myself modern while still staying true to myself. So I try to find a nice medium point with that, but I do acknowledge that like even my sound sounds a little bit different than, you know what I mean, most of the people that are mainstream right now these days.
Word. Nah, it's definitely a unique vibe, man. Your stage show though, not just the music, but your stage show. Like, I saw you performing one time. First of all, you always keep a cameraman on deck.
You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much every time Quinco Productions, anywhere we go. So.
But I saw you with dancers. You got dancers.
Yes, sir. Castings by KV is pretty much who I book with almost every time.
Yeah.
I tell you, the dancers, like, that was like a random idea that just popped in my head, because it was like one of those things where it's like, I've never seen somebody pull this off before. So I just wanted to do something as
Not around here.
It makes you like stand out a little more. You know, I know
you already got the famous thing going. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like you ain't gotta get into it when you get there. You know
I don't have to learn it.
You got it
what I mean?
already.
Like,
yeah, I respect it.
But like the dancers is more of like something for people who have never seen me before, the people who don't want to give me, you know what I mean, a chance. It's like a lot of times the shock factor of the dancers coming on stage opens their eyes for 2 seconds enough to say, hold up, who's on stage right now? And then they start paying attention a lot more than they did, you know? So,
Nah, facts. Like, a cute girl on stage will always get the crowd's attention, man.
right? And I mean, the energy's great too with them too, you know what I mean? Like, I always try to make sure I'm working with people who are on the same page as far as the end goal. Like, we just always want to make sure our crowd wants to come back for another show.
Definitely.
Like, you know, that's my goal with every show.
What's been your favorite performance so far? You do a lot of shows and a lot of events, and you have some events coming up, so shout that out too.
So, favorite show I would say is just actually really recent, because that was the biggest one we did. That was Total Mortgage Arena. I opened up for Polo G. I think it was about like a 70% turnout as far as the 10K venue, so that was about 7,000 people or so. The way the crowd responded to it, and like seeing myself mature as a performer too, and see that like the same baseline performance, but much more advanced at this point is like actually
it's evolved.
You know?
Absolutely.
So that was my favorite one. As far as what I have coming up, I'm actually partnered up once again with Clinco Productions on pretty much both of these endeavors. But we're going to be doing the 4th of July Independence Day celebration in Manchester.
Okay.
I'm going to be doing that with Don Z.O.P., Trips Mashad, Evan James, Karan Walker, and DJ Boomba. We're all collaborating on this event to try and change the culture a little bit in town, because Manchester's got a little bit of a stigma on the 4th of July for always being like super like oldies, like 30s, 40s, 50s type music. And a lot of
Is there usually like an event in Manchester, like a 4th of July?
every year, like the same thing as Riverfront, but a lot of people don't know about it because it
I
tends to appeal to a super old market.
Got
you know what I mean? So
got you.
our job being brought on was to kind of just like bring the youth back out and do something where people have a platform at this point to be able to, you know, showcase their craft at a big event. So that's the first one. The second one is the bicentennial celebration for the town, actually. So they partnered up with us in bringing, you know, some celebrities to town. So we got Juelz, Santana, Rowdy, myself coming through to do like a little bit of a concert, fashion show, and like a vendor market as well. Starts off with the market first, fashion show second, and then we'd love to network with you.
She does comedy.
And I'm a clean comic too, but I am.
She could kill me.
Perfect.
Oh, I do all the time.
As long as it's not literally.
No.
She literally performs that. What's the name of
Funny Bone?
Nah, the all-white parties.
Oh, don't do it. Like, he just get up there because I told him I love the white rooms better than the black rooms. Because the white people, y'all laugh at anything. Like, you know?
Nah, what's the, it was like a place that you went to.
Oh, no. So there's this place in Massachusetts called the Whites of Westport. But it's really like they kept the name. So I know.
See,
exactly. The name itself makes you know it was
a on the weekend, the Whites of Westport.
Don't do me. But they love me there.
She's good.
They love me there. They love me there.
That's wild.
I would say that event, bro, is like gonna be something where it really sets the tone for like what I want to see with other artists. Because like I'll never challenge another, you know, artist to be better than me or anything like that. I feel like everybody's better than everybody else. We're all good at our own craft.
Yes.
But as far as like this event, like it's really to give back to the place you came from. Like we've never had anybody from the industry touch down in Manchester, Connecticut ever in history. Regardless if it's walking in a store, other than Justin Bieber playing soccer at the park one time, that's the only time we've ever had.
Really?
Like that. Yeah.
He remembered it. It had to happen.
And I'm trying to say, how do you know? You don't know if they went to the mall.
Nah, I've been in town, you know what I'm saying, my whole life. So it's like that's one of those things I would have heard. So it's like I try to do something where it's like these people that don't necessarily want to take the trip all the way down to Bridgeport. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's an hour for us. I want them to be able to experience the same thing we get on the other side of the river where I'm from. So that's really the goal with that.
Yo, my last question before we get up out of here. We're gonna go off on another. We got one more joint. Usually we have you rap.
Yep.
I don't know if you.
I mean,
we could save that for the next time. We could say that. Yeah, we could say that for the next time. My last question: what would you tell a young kid from Manchester that's trying to make his way in hip hop? What would you tell that young kid right now?
Read, learn, study, and there's never too much knowledge that you can acquire. Music is a multifaceted sport. It's not just an art form. You can always be creative. You can always share that with people, but if you want ears to hear it, you have to do some research on how to present yourself and present your brand. Just learn the industry, learn the ins and outs of how things function, and study the people that are better than you. Don't be afraid to say, yo, this guy's a little bit more acclaimed than me. Maybe I should see the way he's moving and try to duplicate in my own manner. You know, never let your ego get in the way.
That's true.
Word. Goonie Jay, man. We appreciate you, man. One more time, man. What's the dates and the how can they get their hands on tickets or information about the movement?
July 8th, that's going to be Manchester Community College. That's from 4 to 7 p.m. Free entry for everybody, family friendly once again at that one. September 15th is going to be Rowdy Rebel, Juelz, Santana, and myself, and that's going to be at Mount Nebo Park in Manchester. You can get tickets right now at the realgooniejay.com. Tickets are in pre-sale at the moment, so we're doing them for only $20 for anybody that's interested before they go on sale for the full price. So
dope. You got to come back before September.
Absolutely.
Let's talk, man.
Absolutely.
Yo, Goonie Jay, Alex, Chase, we appreciate what y'all do, man. Thank you for coming through Titanium Radio.
It was really nice.